And in case you're wondering, wiping is impossible.
After we left Wellington and the Nomad Fest, we came down to Austin to visit my niece. As you may recall, we were in Colorado a couple weeks ago at my oldest brother's place, and this is his daughter. So my brother helped us with some projects up there, and now I'm helping his daughter down here in Texas, but mostly we're just mooch talking and having a great time. Community that comes together around RVing is pretty awesome, and they send great ideas and suggestions to me, and so some of those I'm sharing with you today in a video. It's really about your comments and my responses, some of which have been posted in the comments below, but most people don't read those, so I thought I'd highlight some of those. Met Ed at the KOA near Santa Fe, and he has a Pleasureway. What model is it?
Lexar.
Yeah, that's the one we wanted, but John doesn't fit in the seat very well because of that chassis.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we ended up with this one. Okay, so he had a problem with his thermal water heater.
Your LED's not blinking.
Okay, so it might not be that.
This is the control board right here. They'll send you if you have that code 33, or if there's something wrong with it. You just take this connector, and that screw. Take that out, but it's like 5 minutes, and then they'll put the new one. You just ship them the new one back, and they're real easy to work with.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's very light.
Oh, it just lit. And the first one is regarding my video on the review I did of our vehicle, and someone suggested I should have included the top of the vehicle, which is a perfect opportunity here because I have a balcony at my niece's that I can stand on and show you the top of the roof. So here's a great vantage point for seeing it. There are two 95-watt solar panels, and you can see the air conditioning unit and the vent for the fantastic fan, and then the antenna. And then I also see two what look like vents. I've never noticed that before because I've never had this vantage point. But I'm guessing one might be the vent for the toilet, and then one might be the vent for the refrigerator, maybe the Truma water heater, probably something like that. First one is the Mercedes chassis itself and whether we've had issues with it. I wanted to point out that someone had asked how many miles we have on it so far. We have 15,000 miles. We got the oil changed at 10,000, and we sent it in for an oil analysis, which we plan to continue to do as long as we have the vehicle. It's not very expensive. We used Blackstone, which is the company that had been recommended by Keep Your Daydreams. And the report came back. They said it was pretty typical of a new vehicle, and nothing stood out to them. So the chassis itself, we haven't had any issues with it. I know some people are concerned because it's Mercedes, it's harder to find dealers. Living on the West Coast, we really don't have as much concern because Mercedes dealers are kind of all over the place. Although I've been told that many of them will not work on the Sprinter chassis. But we know that there's one close to us that does, and as well as there are other car guys that will work on it. So that's not been an issue. And there was the question about DEF, how often we fill the DEF. Well, actually, we had it filled when the oil was changed at 10,000 miles. And so we'll probably continue that kind of procedure. That we'll just get the oil changed, they'll fill the DEF, they check the oil pressure, that sort of stuff. So that's all I really have to say about the Mercedes chassis. Although I have been told by viewers that Mercedes has actually made some upgrades addressing some of the issues that I had raised in my previous video. There have been lots of comments about the bedding video that I did, and I've gotten some really good suggestions from people on what they do. Now, obviously, this is a very subjective thing. I have the situation where John is 6 feet 5 inches, and some of the bedding options just don't work for us because they maybe have a zipper at the bottom and he's just too tall. I think we'd be fighting constantly if we were kind of stuck in a sleeping bag situation. But there was one I got recently on a product, actually 2 people made the same suggestion. There's a product that's from the UK, and it's called Duvalay, Duvaley, I think it is, or maybe it's AY. And I'm going to actually see if that is available in the US and maybe give that a try, depending on the bulk, because we have the smallest vehicle, and weight and bulk are our two big enemies. So I'm going to check into that because that looked really interesting, the way you could lay out 2 of these pads that are kind of a foam layer, but that's sandwiched between like a duvet cover, so it can be zipped off and washed. So that looked really interesting, and I'll put a link to that product below. I also want to say, with regard to the Pleasure Way, they have an incredibly comfortable foam mattress or foam seating, whatever they use. It's really comfortable, and some people don't use anything other than maybe put a sheet down, and that's I'm sure that would work great for some people. John has a bit of a hip problem, and he likes a little bit extra padding, especially where the pieces come together. So where there's a crack, that might be a little bit more painful for him. So again, this is all very subjective. Everybody has their own criteria for their needs, and so you'll just kind of have to figure it out on your own, with some respects.
So tell us how you pack away the bedding, Debbie.
No. It's nuts. We've been asked which cell booster we use. We have a WeBoost, and it's fine. We don't really seem to. I mean, yes, it'll give you a much stronger signal, but the upload and download speeds, maybe a little bit better, but not as fast as we thought it would probably give us. Now, we did meet a couple at the Nomad Fest that had something called a Cradle Point, which is really more of a commercial unit. And John has spoken with them on the phone. It's a bit pricey, so I'm not sure we'll go down that route. But we also discovered at Nomad Fest a service that Escapees has hooked up with, and I'll see if I can get a link to that. And these are just things that you guys might want to investigate if you're looking at improving your cell signal on the road. We do get quite a few questions regarding how John fits in the rig, and so I've shot some videos to show you kind of his pinch points, or should I say pain points, and that might give you an idea for a guy who is 6'5". I don't think anyone makes a rig for someone 6'5", at least not in this class. So that's just life for tall guys. They do a lot of head hitting, and I don't mean to be flippant about it, but guys that are tall know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, John, would you say during the night you have to keep crawling up, or?
I'm not a back sleeper, I'm a side sleeper.
So that gives you an idea. Now, if you're just one person, you could sleep diagonally. Then he'd have plenty of room, so he just has to get rid of me.
That's 2 bad habits I gotta get rid of.
So this shows you where his head hits the air conditioner. And also, open up one of the doors so you can see how... Someone asked how far from the ceiling that goes. So it's really only an issue if I leave the door open and he runs into the corner of it. You can see the knob right there. And that would be an owie. Okay, so,
I'm not supposed to sit on it.
I asked John if he would sit on the toilet so you can see. You can see how little room there is. And he said, well, people then will say, why did you buy this thing? Okay, but he's going to be a good soldier and he's going to do it for me anyway. Hold on.
Roads on my hands and someone to flip the switch. And in case you're wondering, wiping is impossible.
Okay, but wait a minute. Okay, but you got 2 inches there. You still have 2 inches.
No, I got a roll of paper there.
Well, you can move that. And then we've had some questions about the hitch swing. A viewer wanted to actually know whether we could open the doors with the hitch in place, without moving it, without having to move it to the side. And so I'll do a video of that and insert it here. We've also we've been pointed out that we have to make a choice between taking our bikes or taking the box for storage. We are going to look into, taking the bikes hasn't really been an issue so far, but we're going to look into having a piece welded onto the rack so that we could actually have the option of taking both. And then for our Alaska trip, we would really like to take a spare tire. So we're going to consider the same company that makes the hitch swing, called Wilco Off-Road. They also make something that has a box and a spare tire holder. So we may consider that. Or if you guys have any suggestions for anyone else that has something like that, we're open to all and any suggestions. And then finally, just addressing suggestions that, we should have gotten X, Y, or Z. We are very happy with the Pleasureway. They do have, just like every manufacturer, they do have some quality control issues. I think they actually have fewer than most. So we had certain criteria when we were making the decision to buy, and we definitely, at the top of that list was we needed a short van. We live in a congested area, and we wanted to be able to park in any parking spot, except for those with height limitations. So that was a leading factor, but we are still pleased with the Pleasureway quality. We're not as pleased with some of the problem we've had with our Dometic refrigerator. But there again, I'm not sure yet, because we are still in the process of trying to figure out what's going on. It could be the propane system and not the refrigerator. So as I figure that out, I will bring you the news and let you all know, because I know that some of you have struggled as well with your refrigerator issue. But then just this morning, I got a comment from someone recommending a truck refrigerator. I'll put the link to that one below. And that looks really quite promising if it will fit into our rig and if we can find someone to install it for us. So I just want to conclude by saying, I feel for all of you who are trying to make that perfect choice, but the reality is there is no perfect choice out there. It's very subjective, and the important point is to make that decision and get out on the road and have some fun and make some memories. And to that regard, I really appreciate everyone who comments and makes suggestions to us. And I even have to laugh at the one guy that said we should be dead. We should be dead. We're so stupid. Those things just make me laugh. But I want to end with one other humorous note. This was one of my favorite responses to a comment, which was a lady whose husband was telling her that wait, let me read it. I don't want to get it wrong. So she was asking me, how many pairs of shoes do I take? Because her husband says 2. And I said to her, I agree with your husband. He should only take 2 pair. But our feet are smaller, so we can take as many as we want. But in all seriousness, we divide our space up. We try to do it equally. And whatever you can fit in your space is what you take. And when it gets too much, then do what we did and ship a box home. We've acquired way too many free t-shirts on this trip, and we've sent a box home. Actually, it's the second box we've sent home, because as you travel, you realize, why did I bring that? I didn't need it. Or maybe you're on the road and you went, I should have brought a raincoat, and that was really silly. So with that, I will bid you adieu, and thank you very much for watching.
I love all the windows. Can you project a movie on this? You could, right?
You could, I
You
guess.
better not put me in the